Ladies and gentlemen, the following podcast is set for one episode. Your host from Columbus, Ohio, is Michael Kirk. Welcome to the Outlaw Mudcast. Hello and welcome to the Outlaw Mudcast, your digital audio dirt sheet for all things Supershow. There are quite a few things that have been announced this week. Let's start with December 12th. December 12th is going to be a mega date for Supershow. It's going to be the final SRG match card, official match card of the year. We're going to see the current Underworld Champion Matt Nealon defend against Candyman Dan Hughes. We're going to see the current World Heavyweight Champion John Polverino, Press 1P, defend against the Grump, Danny Thunder. We're going to see the SRG Awards announced, including, for the first time, the first inductee and possible multiple inductees into the Supershow Hall of Fame. We know for certain the late, great Maurice Thompson, Master Osmodeus, the Keeper of Prisoners, will be inducted into the Hall of Fame. We may also see Matt Travis, the late professional wrestler who wrestled with House of Glory among other promotions, I assume. I'm not too familiar with his career, but he, of course, passed in the last year. SRG released a tribute competitor to him, where I believe the proceeds go to his family. That's all happening on the 12th, or at least the weekend of the 12th. There has been an announcement that there will also be matches on the 11th, because of how big the card will be on the 12th. So, at least on SRG's end, the 12-12 show events card will also include events that are going to take place on the 11th of December. In addition, CCW will be running an online event that day, and the Fort Wayne Birthday Bash featuring the other Steve Korniak, will be taking place on the 12th. So, a very busy date in Supershow, December 12th. That is 2 Saturdays from today. As I record this, it is November 29th. Other things of note in December. Steve Resk announced on the last Talk of the Universe that all of the single card releases, competitor set releases, left to go that we know of will happen in December. So things like the special limited number of Arnarov Panda art commissions, those will be coming out in December. Other new cards, new alt art cards, all that stuff's going to be happening in December. I did ask on Talk of the Universe about the second created deck from the Kickstarter. That is scheduled to come out in January of 2021. Per Kickstarter, and from what they said on Talk of the Universe, it is still on schedule, on time. Look for that to come out in January of 2021. That is the big December news. Things coming out more recently, I'm going to talk about the Black Friday sales. Of course, the Friday after Thanksgiving traditionally is known as Black Friday. It is when a lot of retail stores, businesses have sales. SRG Universe, no exception. They have a sale currently going on. I believe it will probably go at least through Monday, because the Monday after Thanksgiving, Cyber Monday, has also become a thing. But as of right now, on SupershowTheGame.com, single cards numbers 1 through 27, competitor sets, spectacles, entrances, all those things are 25% off if you use the promo code Black Friday 2020. And box sets are 15% off with that same promo code. They've also released a number of new bundles. Now, new products, special orders, created content, none of that is part of the special, but everything else is covered under that promo code. Looking at the bundles right now, bundles for a lot of factions, Think Tank, The Pack, 2 Higher Class, 2 Crime Wave, Proving Ground, Even DJ Outlaw is in a bundle, which is kind of amazing to see. That's kind of a shock. I never expect to see DJ Outlaw in a bundle, but he is. But yeah, that is the big Black Friday event. Last week I talked about deadlines for events. All of the deadlines for Faction Wars Phase 2, Cookie's Fortune, and the current LFF Tag Team Tournament to determine a contender for the LFF Tag Team Championships. All of those deadlines have been pushed to Tuesday, December 1st. The afternoon of December 1st is when all of your matches for the first round of the Cookie's Fortune Tournament, Faction Wars Phase 2, and the current round of the Tag Team Tournament, all those must be done by December 1st. So that's an extension on all of those, which I'm sure for a number of players who hadn't gotten those matches played, that is a great help to them, giving them that little bit of extra time. Outside of that, there was one championship belt defended this week. The Intergalactic Championship, which was created by Dick Thunderlips, was defended on Monday, I believe. The current Intergalactic Champion, everybody, using everybody, was challenged by Colin Simon of Impact using Trent. They were playing under a new Cosmic Collision stipulation created by Dick Thunderlips. A very interesting stipulation. Basically, beginning of the match, whoever won the first turn roll, the skill they rolled became the Cosmic skill. Anytime in the match you rolled the Cosmic skill for your turn roll, I believe you got to either add +1 to your next turn roll, bury 2 cards in your discard pile, or draw a card. And it was your choice which one of those 3 you wanted to do. When you hit a finish roll, you rolled the finish roll, and then after the finish roll, you rolled your die again. If you rolled the Cosmic skill, your opponent's first breakout roll is -10. And if you are the player breaking out, after you roll your 3 breakout rolls, if you have not broken out, you get an additional roll, and if you roll the Cosmic skill, you do. So, if at any point the finish roll is higher than 10, and you can't increase your breakout roll to match normally, you still have a 1 in 6 chance of breaking out because you can roll the Cosmic skill. At Crowd Mirror 2 under this stipulation, everybody is able to hit a finish. Colin is not able to break out. Everybody, Ed Ortiz, retains the championship. He is still the Intergalactic Champion. The last bit of news I'm going to talk about is the Create a Competitor competition, the 2020 CCC. Patrick Mulligan, who does a lot of work on the creative side, the storyline side for SRG Universe for the Supershow, runs the CCC. He made an announcement today. The first match of round 1 will start Wednesday night after Talk of the Universe. And here's the format for every match going forward starting today. Sunday. Every Sunday for the first round, he will announce the people who will be in the match. This week, it's 4 people. Vicious Vic Vandal, Morbus, Darklight Victor Diecast, and the Cherry Glamazon. Those 4 will be in the first match of round 1. The match will go live after Talk of the Universe, and it will be live for 48 hours. People will be able to vote in the poll. The poll will be posted on Facebook. I'm going to assume it's like last year. There'll be a link on Facebook to the poll. The poll will be up for 48 hours. You can vote once per hour. So every person voting can theoretically vote up to 48 times. Probably not going to happen with schedules and whatnot, but that's the upper limit. At the end of the 48-hour period, the poll closes. Patrick Mulligan will calculate the totals and announce the winner of the match. So there's only going to be 1 match per week. I know there are around 36 participants. If we do 4 per match, that's 9 matches, which means round 1 will take around 9 weeks to complete. So it's starting here. Looks like it'll be 4 weeks in December, 4 weeks in January, and then maybe into the first week of February. I don't have a calendar in front of me, so I'm not sure how it works out. If they're going to be actually 5 weeks in January, so it'll be the last week of January, or if it'll bleed into February. Actually, let me pull up a calendar and look. It looks like the 30th of January is a Saturday. So based on that, assuming there are no delays or anything unforeseen, round 1 will be ending the week of January 30th, assuming 9 matches in the round and no delays. That is it for round 1. The 4 people I mentioned just a moment ago: Vicious Vic Vandal, Morbus, Darklight Victor Diecast, and the Cherry Glamazon. They all have, from now until Wednesday before Talking of the Universe, and actually, to be fair, before Friday after Talking of the Universe, so that's Friday the 4th. They have until Friday the 4th to get as many votes as possible to see if they will move on to round 2 of the 2020 CCC. That is it for the main news. I will announce this: CCW has announced that they are creating an online portion of their promotion, the WWW, which I'm guessing is World Wide Web or World Wide Wrestling or World Web Wrestling. I don't know what they're calling it, but they're calling it the WWW, and they're encouraging people to sign up for this online promotion. In the spirit of CCW's announcement, the 2 competitors I'm going to review this week are members of CCW. The first competitor is, I believe, the current GM of CCW, one half of Big Money, a former LFF Tag Team Champion, Gary Schneider's competitor, the Big Guy. The other competitor is, like Gary Schneider, a member of Schneider Protective Services. And she is also a former holder of LFF Gold, the former LFF Junior Heavyweight Champion, and potentially a future LFF Tag Team Champion, because she and Sage the Wiccan Witch will be challenging at some point in the future the LFF Tag Team Champions for that championship. That is Jasmine Schneider's competitor, Jay Flash. Let's start with the Big Guy, the competitor created by Gary Schneider that he received for being one of the top 4 competitors in the 2019 CCC. Of course, the Trash Man won last year's CCC. The runner-up was Funtime Bob. The other 2 rounding out the top 4 were Dizzy Derailed and the Big Guy. A mysterious benefactor went ahead and had the Big Guy and Dizzy Derailed created, and because Funtime Bob was already coming out as a part of a Kickstarter purchase, Funtime Bob was put on a card. So let's talk about the competitor for the current super co-host, as he's now known, and a guest co-host of the most recent Talk of the Universe, as well as a permanent guest co-host on Tell Us About Yourself, the Tuesday night show hosted by Jeffrey Foxworthy, and normally Dustin Garman, but for right now, it is the Big Guy. Here are the skills and the gimmick for the Big Guy. Power 10, Technique 8, Agility 5, Strike 9, Submission 6, Grapple 7. When Kendo Stick would be discarded from your hand, flipped, or buried, you may instead add it to your hand. I'm going to talk about the cards I would play in 13 through 15 for the Big Guy. I'll start with 13. With a 9 strike, a stop like running lariat makes sense. This will stop your opponent's grapple if your strike is greater than their strike. Your strike's a 9, that's a good bet. At 14, you have a power of 10. A card like Falling Power Slam makes sense. That would stop a grapple if your power is greater than your opponent's power. You could also run, and I would probably recommend this, the 7 Seals. The 7 Seals does exactly what the Falling Power Slam does, but it also allows you to put a card from your discard pile on top of your deck. It's a skill requirement card. You need a skill of 8 or greater in Strike. You have a 9, so you can run the 7 Seals. And then at 15, with a technique of 8, you could play Single Leg Crab. This allows you to stop a strike if your technique is greater than your opponent's technique. 8s are always kind of iffy. You could go with that or go with something that would be helpful to you. Maybe a Cross-Arm Chicken Wing with a technique of 8 as a skill card. That's a great skill card. Or just another great support card. But you could run a stop. So if you're going to run stops, at 13, running Lariat, 14, 7 Seals, or Falling Power Slam if you don't want to use a skill card, 15, Single Leg Crab. Let's look at the gimmick. When Kendo Stick would be discarded from your hand, flipped, or buried, you may instead add it to your hand. So let's talk about Kendo Stick first. Kendo Stick is a lead strike number 1. The text on it is as follows. When you roll technique for your finish roll, your roll is +1. Now this competitor is designed, and we'll get into this more when we look at the finishes, but this competitor is designed to have Kendo Stick in play when you hit finishes. So Kendo Stick will give you a +1 to your technique when you roll it for your finish roll. Your technique's an 8, so if Kendo Stick's in play when you roll your finish roll, it will bump that up to a 9 when you roll technique. So right away, 10, 2 9s, 5, 6, 7, regardless of any bonuses on any finishes. When Kendo Stick would be discarded from your hand, that would be for hand size, or it could be if somebody makes you discard. So if I hit you with a card that would make you discard from hand, if you discard Kendo Stick, you can pick it right back up. If you have to discard Kendo Stick for hand size, you can pick it right back up, because you may add it to your hand instead of discarding. Flipped. So if I flip a card from my deck, my opponent flips a card from my deck, they flip Kendo Stick, I can add it to my hand. Buried. Now, I'm going to assume this is buried from discard pile and not from hand, because they specify discard from hand as opposed to in play. So I'm going to assume buried is limited to buried from your discard pile and not from your hand. It could be both. If it's both, that's really good. If my opponent would make me bury a card from hand, I could choose to bury Kendo Stick, and then instead of burying it, I add it right back to my hand. If I have it in my discard pile and I want it in my hand, I can pass, bury, and then pick it right back up. It's right back in my hand. So a lot of great ways to get Kendo Stick back to your hand through your gimmick. Let's go ahead and look at the finishes. We'll start with the finish strike, number 28, Kendo Slice. +3 to agility, +1 to strike. If you have Kendo Stick in play, this card is also a follow-up. If stopped, you may discard Kendo Stick from your hand or in play. Otherwise, you lose the match via disqualification. So let's talk about the bonuses. +3 to agility increases that skill to an 8. +1 to strike increases that to a 10. And if you have Kendo Stick in play, A, this is a follow-up, and B, your technique is 9 when you roll it for your finish roll. So, without Kendo Stick in play, this would give you a 6, a 7, 2 8s, and 2 10s. With Kendo Stick in play, it gives you a 6, a 7, an 8, a 9, and 2 10s. Very good. This is a follow-up if you have Kendo Stick in play. If it's stopped, you may discard Kendo Stick from your hand or from in play. Otherwise, you lose the match via disqualification. So if you're playing a no DQ match, that last part doesn't matter. You don't have to discard the Kendo Stick from your hand or in play. If you have it in play, you can discard it and avoid a DQ loss. If you have it in your hand, you can discard it and prevent a loss. Now, this is my question. When Kendo Stick would be discarded from your hand, flipped or buried, you may instead add it to your hand. To me, the way this gimmick reads with this finish, I must discard Kendo Stick from my hand. I cannot add it to my hand. I can't say, okay, well, I'll discard Kendo Stick from my hand to avoid the disqualification. No, I'm going to pick it back up from my gimmick. No, because I must discard from my hand. I can't say, well, instead of discarding, I'm keeping it. No, the way I read this, you must discard Kendo Stick if you have it in your hand to prevent the loss. You can't say, I'm going to discard it. Well, instead of discarding it, I'll add it to my hand. That doesn't work as far as I can tell, and I may be wrong. I'd have to see what somebody says, but the way I'm reading this, you cannot use the gimmick to say, I'm going to discard Kendo Stick from my hand and I'm going to pick it right back up. Because this says you have to discard it to avoid the match, and the gimmick says, well, instead of discarding it, you add it to your hand. I don't think you can bypass the discard requirement. But that's just my interpretation. Let's look at the finished grapple next. Number 29, Zubaz Bomb. +2 to agility, +1 to grapple. If you have Kendo Stick in play, double these bonuses. +2 to agility increases that skill to a 7. +1 to grapple increases that to an 8. So it would give you a 6, a 7, 2 8s, a 9, and a 10. If you have Kendo Stick in play, and those bonuses are doubled, it'll give you a 6, 3 9s, a 10, and an 8 technique. But, of course, if Kendo Stick's in play, that technique is a 9 if you roll it. So it gives you a 6, 4 9s, and a 10 when Kendo Stick's in play and you hit Zubaz Bomb. So that is very good. The last finish, the finish submission number 30, Pinky Toe Hold. +1 to technique, +3 to submission. When this card is in your discard pile, when you hit Kendo Stick, you may shuffle this card into your deck. Skill-wise, +1 to technique will increase that to a 9. +3 to submission increases that to a 9 as well. So 5, 7, 3 9s, and a 10 is really good. If you have Kendo Stick in play, again, that's going to increase that technique to a 10. So it'd give you 2 10s, 2 9s, a 5, and a 7. Really strong. This is great late game because you get Kendo Stick, you hit it, you can shuffle Pinky Toe Hold back. If you have very few cards or no cards in your deck, that allows you to hit Kendo Stick and either shuffle this back in if there are some cards left, or if you have no cards, you effectively get to put this right back on top of your deck. And when you win the next turn roll, you draw, you have a lead in play, and you have a finish in your hand. It's a very nice late game combo I can see with Pinky Toe Hold. That is the big guy. I like the big guy. At first, when I first saw his gimmick, I wasn't sure how good that was going to be because it just works around one card in the game, Kendo Stick. But I think the way it's designed to allow you to keep getting Kendo Stick back to your hand so you can keep hitting it. And essentially you either have to keep hitting stops to keep it out of the hand, or you just let it go, let it be in play. I think it's an effective gimmick. I think it can be quite a nice gimmick, the big guy. Now let's look at the big guy's daughter, the former junior heavyweight champion, Jay Flash. Here are the skills, and here's the gimmick for Jay Flash. Power 6, Technique 8, Agility 10, Strike 9, Submission 7, Grapple 9. When you roll Agility, flip 2 cards, then bury 2 cards in your discard pile. As always, we'll talk about the cards at 13 through 15. At 13, a card like Kick in the Corner makes sense. Kick in the Corner works the same way as Running Lariat, but it uses Agility instead of Strike as the skill. In the 14 slot, DDT makes sense. DDT does the same thing as Falling Power Slam, but it uses Grapple as a skill instead of Power. And with a technique of 8, single leg crab, just like with the big guy. So 13, Kick in the Corner, 14 DDT, 15 single leg crab. When you roll agility, flip 2 cards, then bury 2 cards in your discard pile. Very similar to Sage's gimmick, which I believe is when you roll power, flip 3 and shuffle 2 from your discard pile back into your deck. I bring up Sage because Jay Flash is a Sage player. Jay Flash, as junior heavyweight champion, was the champion using Sage the Wiccan Witch. I like this gimmick. Good early game. Allows you to thin your deck out. Great late game when you have no deck in play. Allows you to put back 2 cards that you're going to want to get back to your hand. Simple, nice gimmick. Let's look at the finishes. Finish strike number 28. You didn't see that coming. +3 to strike. Flip 3 cards. Add 2 cards from your discard pile to your hand. +3 to strike increases that to an 8. 6, 7, 2 8s, a 9, and a 10. And then just a nice bit of recursion. Flip 3 cards. Add 2 cards from your discard pile to your hand. Flip 3 helps you thin out your deck. Adding 2 cards allows you to get 2 cards out of your discard pile that you want in your hand. Move on to the Finish Grapple, number 29, the Flashpoint. It is a Spotlight card. +2 to Technique, +3 to Strike. If flipped for your gimmick, you may shuffle your deck. This is going to increase your Technique to a 10, your Strike to an 8. So 6, 7, 8, 9, and 2 10s. 1 out of 3 chance to roll 10s, not bad. 50% chance to roll 9 or better is good. The way this would work with your gimmick, the way I understand it, you'd roll agility, you'd flip the 2 cards, then you'd bury 2 cards in your discard pile. If the flashpoint's one of the 2 flipped, you would then shuffle your deck if you choose to. I believe that if you went ahead and, of course, you flip the 2 cards for the gimmick, you bury the 2 cards. If you bury the flashpoint as one of the 2, I believe you would still shuffle. I believe that is the case, that you hit your gimmick, you roll the agility, you flip 2 cards. Flashpoint's one of the 2 flipped. You bury 2 cards in your discard pile. If you decide to bury flashpoint, you would still go ahead and shuffle your deck. I believe that is the case. I could be corrected, but I believe that would be the case. You could shuffle your deck after flipping and then burying flashpoints. And now we'll look at the Finish Submission number 30, Cool Down Lock. +2 to Power, +1 to Submission. Shuffle any number of cards from your discard pile into your deck, then flip up to 4 cards. +2 to Power increases that to an 8. +1 to Submission increases that to an 8. This gives you a 5, 3 8s, a 9, and a 10. 5 out of 6 chance to roll 8 or better is good. Shuffle any number of cards from your discard pile into your deck. So this could be anything from 0 cards to every card in your discard pile. You have that degree of range. Then flip up to 4 cards. Again, you could flip 0, 1, 2, 3, or 4 cards. Your choice. So there's a lot of variety with this finish, which I like. I like finishes that give you that option to, you can shuffle any number of cards you want, you can flip any number of cards you want, up to 4. So that is Jay Flash. I like Jay Flash. She's simple, she's interesting, but those are the 2 competitors for this week, the big guy and Jay Flash. Let's talk about the tournaments from last week. We did not have a Thursday tournament because Thursday was Thanksgiving. But we had a Wednesday tournament and 2 Friday tournaments. Wednesday, we saw the debut of the Dread Pirate Proving Ground event. This is an event designed to be new player friendly, where the idea is you're going to play decks you normally don't play, and to sort of prevent top players from dominating the event week after week. There is a system in place where when you have earned 15 points, you can no longer enter the Proving Ground events. How do you earn points? If you win the event, you receive 3 points. If you take second place in the event, you receive 2. If you take third place, you receive 1. And once you've accumulated 15, you are out. This week, the top 4 in the Proving Ground event, at 4th place with Jigsaw, Vicious Vic Vandal. At 3rd place with Lily Mai, earning his first point, Jonathan Thew. At 2nd place with White Lily, earning 2 points, Robert the Brain Dunn, or as he's being known now, Big Bad Bobby D. And winning the event, earning 3 points with Zombie, Press 1 John Polverino. Congratulations to everyone for making the top of the event. Those are the results for Wednesday night. Friday, 2 events on Friday, an early event and a late event. The early event, starting at 2 p.m., was a tag team event. A very interesting tag team event. Heel, face, turn, tag. Here's the way the event worked. Tag team rules, each player using the same competitor. So, if I and a tag team partner enter, if I am using El Super Hombre, he must also use El Super Hombre. Both players have to use the same competitor. For turn rolls, when you win the turn roll, you do not play the turn. Your partner plays the turn. So, if I'm playing, I roll 10, my partner rolls 5, the 2 opponents roll 6 and 7, I win the turn roll, my partner draws a card, my partner plays. Now, if we both roll the same skill and tags happen normally. So if we both rolled 10, because we're playing the same competitor, our 10 skills are both power, we tag, we both draw, and we both play. There's also a twist here in that you do not need to have a lead and a follow-up against a player personally to play a finish on that player. What do I mean by that? It's a shared board. So, if I win the first turn roll, my partner, of course, gets to play, he draws, he plays a lead on opponent A. Next turn roll, he wins a turn roll. I get a play. I draw a card. I can now play a follow-up on opponent A because as a team we have a lead against opponent A. Very unusual. Normally you have separate in-play piles and they tunnel. There is a shared play area and that tunneling doesn't happen. Very interesting twist. And you were prohibited from running cards like Hot Tag in the game. Those cards at 16, 17, and 18 that say if you hit this card, your opponent can play a lead or follow-up this turn. You cannot play those cards in this event. From what I understand, only 3 teams ended up entering, and from 3rd to 1st, the 3rd place team, 2 men, 6 hands, was Dom Buchter, Chugonomics, and I apologize if I pronounce this incorrectly, Killen Botter was his tag team partner. They were both playing Kempo Kenny. The 2nd place team, Public Enemies number 2, Jonathan Thew and Matt Barone both were using Public Enemy number 1. And the winners of the event, the Deserters, were the Cannoli Anthony Perry and Ken Fushi, both using the Cannoli as their competitor. Congratulations to them. Later on that night, Friday night, the True Survivors Black Friday Beatdown double elimination tournament. The top 2 in the winner's bracket were Ken Fushi using the Hallow King and Loudmouth Leo Larynx using his own competitor, Loudmouth Leo Larynx. Ken Fushi wins the winner's bracket. Loudmouth Leo faces off against Chris Pate for the top of the loser's bracket. Chris Pate wins. Chris Pate's using Gia de los Muertos. Chris Pate faces off against Ken Fushi in the finals. Chris Pate must win twice to win the tournament. He wins the first match, so it goes to the final match. Whoever wins this match wins the whole thing. And Ken Fushi comes back, wins the tournament. Ken Fushi wins both tournaments on Friday. The tag team tournament with the Cannoli as his partner, and the singles tournament by himself. So congratulations to him. Congratulations to all the winners of this week's tournaments. There was no tournament Saturday. There was no tournament Sunday, but I'll talk about this briefly. At the time I'm recording this, I do not know if this has happened, but Hold the Line Harry, Jonathan Thew, came out and announced that he and the boss would be testing out a stipulation for sticks, steps, and chairs matches. Sticks, steps, and chairs are, of course, referring to kendo sticks, ring steps, and steel chairs. The stipulation, from what I've seen a copy of the rules they're going to be using tonight. That, again, these are tentative rules. I'm not going to go into too much depth because this isn't official, this is a playtest thing, but looking at them, there's an Iron Man match element to this. For those of you who don't know what an Iron Man match is a match with a time limit. Say a 60-minute Iron Man match is a match where you play for 60 minutes, and whoever scores the most pinfalls wins. So there's an Iron Man element to these rules. There is a time limit to these rules. Turns are timed. So very interesting that you have timed turns in this. I do not know how that would work, but there are timed turns. And I think this is interesting, not only can the crowd meter go up in this type of match, it can go down, which is, I think, the first stipulation I've seen where the crowd meter can decrease. There's some other things in this as well, but those are kind of the three things that stuck out to me as most interesting. But yeah, if you happen to hear this tonight, Sunday night, the 29th, or if he happens to do some more testing later on, there is a match type for sticks, steps, and chairs being tested. That is going to do it for this week's show. At this point, there are no online events posted on supershowthegame.com. As always, expect there to be Dojo Tuesday nights. Expect there to be some kind of tournament Thursday, although last week there wasn't. Normally there is. We'll just have to see. But otherwise, that's all the news. I do want to talk about something briefly before we go. I don't like doing these types of reports because it always makes me a bit sad. But last year, met a new player at the original Grand Gathering. He was actually the person who drove down with the former co-host of this show, James Russell DeMello. He was on my first Faction Wars team. He's the man who pretty much single-handedly built up Supershow in Massachusetts, contributed a lot to this game, really helped grow the community, put on FreeCon, which was a great event both years. Candyman Dan first got on the map because he won, I believe, FreeCon, the first FreeCon, with Snake Pit and pretty much a starter set deck taking on John Pulverine in the finals of that tournament. So many players in the game now. Evil Ed the Cheesehead, Beatstick Brandon, Ryan Pierce, The Void, Miss Fury, I could go on and on, are in this game primarily because of the contributions of James DeMello. The compound, which James DeMello has created, has been a fixture in Super Show for months. Every Monday night, events on the compound, giveaways, just really so many contributions from James DeMello. It is sad to hear that he is leaving the game. I can tell you that here at the Outlaw Mudcast, I'm going to miss him being around. He was great to talk to. He's a guest on the show at one point. And that's it. I just wanted to acknowledge everything that James Mello brought to the Super Show. He's a great participant in the community, really helped to grow the game. Like I said, RCW would not exist without his contributions. And while I hope to see him again at some point in the future, I hope this isn't goodbye forever. I can tell you that we're going to miss him being around. I know that I will. And so I just want to take this moment and thank him for everything he did and hope the best for him. And with that, that is going to be it for this week's episode. I'd like to thank all of you for listening, and good day. While I was editing the podcast, I was able to reach out to Steve for the 2 questions I had about the competitor sets I was reviewing. First, I'll start with Jay Flash. I had a question about how her gimmick interacted with her grapple finish. As a reminder, the grapple finish spotlight card, in addition to the bonuses, says, if flipped for your gimmick, you may shuffle your deck. I was not sure if I triggered Jay Flash's gimmick. I roll agility, I flip 2 cards, then bury 2. If I flipped the flashpoint and chose to bury the flashpoint, would I still shuffle? The answer is yes. The second one was about the kendo slice finish for the big guy. It says, in part, if stopped, you may discard kendo stick from your hand or in play. Otherwise, you lose the match via disqualification. I was not sure if I could discard kendo stick from my hand and then trigger the gimmick and pick it back up. I was thinking that no, you had to actually fully discard it. That is incorrect. If I go ahead and choose to discard it, me discarding from my hand prevents the loss from disqualification when it's stopped. And then once it's discarded, I can then activate my gimmick and then bring it back to my hand. So I can have the discard prevent the disqualification effect first and then trigger the gimmick and have it, instead of being discarded, added to my hand. That was all. I just wanted to add that information since I had it. Just wanted to get that correction out there and on the show. Otherwise, once again, thank you for listening, and good day.